What's going on out there, folks? It is the Earthmaster here on this Monday night, February 6th, 2023. It is about 9:12 p.m. here along the West Coast in California, and the latest activity shows a 2.1 earthquake into the area of the West Coast. Looks like right down around the San Andreas Fault. Of course, activity continues to ramp up significantly around the Turkey and the Syria area. Quite a bit of earthquake activity to discuss here. Let's go ahead and jump into it. This is the last 24 hours of earthquake activity. So we're missing, the obvious 7.8, the main quake, because it's past that 24-hour threshold. So we're going to pull up and this does not cover 2.5 and above internationally. This is only going to be 4.0 and above internationally from the USGS. So that includes the larger quakes there, the 6.7, the 7.8 in here, and also the 7.5 up north, as well as the 6.0. A lot of activity scattered out and about along this plate boundary, more so than normal. I know there's a certain section of the fault that does rupture during a large earthquake, but not as much as as what's going on here. This is if you look at the scale, let me get rid of this issue right here. If you look at the scale down here, we're looking at about 50 miles on this average measurement right here. So we can go 50, 100, 150, maybe 200 miles from this activity that we've seen over the last 24 hours, also including some of the activity from yesterday. So we'll probably add 36 hours or so on this map. That's a 200-mile area of rupture along a major plate boundary. And not only that, say for example, it just follows this plate boundary, as most earthquakes do, right? But this is excessive. But we're also noticing a swarm of activity here to the west, off of the plate boundary. So there's a whole lot of energy being produced out here with this enormous amount of earthquake activity. I'm not even joking. Quite frankly, I've never seen anything like this. And I don't know if there really has been anything like this. Possible. But this is definitely not normal in the sense that we're seeing this migration of activity and separation in a new region of this swarming area. Now, the USGS claims that this earthquake up here, 7.5, is an aftershock of the 7.8 that struck down here, much further south. We're looking at, let's go back here to this time, to this little scale, 20, 40, maybe 50 miles or so to the north, maybe a little bit further, separation between these two. I don't believe this is an aftershock up here. I don't believe this 6-pointer that struck over here is an aftershock, or any of these other quakes 100 miles or more away from the main quake. It just doesn't happen like that. We don't look at an epicenter area and then see swarms over 100 miles away. It doesn't make sense, right? So there's a lot of what ifs. What's going on here? Is the area looking at some larger activity? Who knows? I mean, this is a very questionable event as to what's going on. It is not volcanic. I did read a couple comments asking, where's the nearest volcano? And there's no doubt volcanoes out here. I was checking them out earlier. I did all the coordinates and whatnot. I was looking at them all. But there's none basically within the vicinity of the activity today. And if you think about it, a volcano, even if it's a super volcano, is going to be confined to one region, whether it's circular or directly as an epicenter type of deal. We're looking at a bunch of earthquakes in one spot. This is obviously a plate boundary issue, and it's almost a full plate boundary collapse, so to speak, in terms of geology, with all this earthquake activity ramping up and down it. There is, it's a very sensitive area in terms of plate dynamics. There's no major subduction zones here. If we look at the map, we're going to go over here. This is a plate movement map. We're looking at Turkey area being right around here. Now there's a triple point junction between the Arabia plate, the Africa plate, the Eurasia plate. This is what USGS is claiming right here. This is the divergent boundary, the Red Sea, right? Let me double check and make sure on that. Down here, the Red Sea area, this is a divergent boundary, separation of the seafloor. So this is spreading apart. But most of the general activity here is scooting off towards the northeast. Notice these arrows pointing in the general direction of the plate movement. Those are GPS stations there. The longer the arrow, the more active and the further that it moves. And there's when you got basically three major plates here, there's a lot of what ifs. What is going on out here in this area of the world? Now I pulled up. Where is it? Where we go? Oh, there we go. Some activity here, specifically. Actually, you can kind of see the rectangle that I drew out here in the region of Turkey. That includes areas of Syria as well, down to the south. 6.5 and above, since, well, the records have been kept for the USGS. Here's some of the activity that we seen yesterday. Of course, the 7.8 down here. 7.8, 7.5 up north. There was a 6.7, a little bit further to the south. I'm not for sure why it says no, but it does. And also some activity back in 1905, much further to the north and east. And if you look here, there's a couple regions that are lacking seismic activity far as anything above a 6.5. And it's kind of going along this trail of the mountains here, along this area. As we've seen, let me bring up this map again, and kind of see this area migrating here to the west. This is all very interesting and very suspicious. I'm not for sure exactly what it's aiming towards, but it's got a little method to it. I think we may find out here soon, possibly. But if you look, hold on a second. This is only the last 24 hours. Let me bring back up the other map here. There we go. We can see how far this stretches here from the about the east over to the west. Considerable distance. 30, 60, 90, close to 100 miles up here alone. If we look at all the activity on a large scale, that's probably over 150 miles or more from this area of the swarm down south. It's mind-blowing because I've never seen anything like that. It's always been taught that sometimes I guess they're open to new ideas, right? I've seen a couple geologists state that there's relation in terms of one earthquake potentially triggering local fault systems or areas along the plate boundary away from the main epicenter. So I think this is a very interesting case here, and it's going to hopefully be studied quite a bit in terms of what's going on, what triggered all this other swarming. And we're not done yet. We are definitely not done with the earthquake activity out here. 109 earthquakes over the last 2 days or so since this earthquake activity occurred. And these are all 4.0 and above. That's only 4.0 and above. If we were to do a total tally, here's the EMSC model here. These show some of the smaller quakes as well, and it's kind of cut off. If I were to scoot over here just a little bit, it cuts off the majority of the other side. It shows 294 earthquakes here on the map. But if we look at the area here, kind of covers most of it. 332 earthquakes. 332 earthquakes, folks, from this swarming. That's massive. That's a massive amount of movement. So I think what we have to watch here is areas that have not been historically hit. far as 6.5 and above, and that covers a wide area across this region of southern Turkey. If we look at the migration, as I mentioned here, we're seeing that pattern of swarming migrate along here, along this mountain range. This activity is relatively shallow, as most of these earthquakes have been. Again, there's no major subduction zone around this area, so we wouldn't really see any deeper level quakes. But it's pointing towards the west, it's pointing towards the northeast, and considerably down here along this area of the plate boundary now. And that includes areas around Cyprus. What have we had out there historical? Not a lot above 6.5 in this area. It's a plate boundary. The last earthquake looks like specifically within this region of Cyprus shows a 6.6 back in 2022 and a 6.8 here along the plate boundary. Also an older quake back in 1926 off the coast here, way off the coast of, well, I shouldn't say way off the coast here, but of the Turkey area back in 1926, a 6.8. So there's a wide area here that has a major seismic gap in terms of 6.5 and above. So I think that's something we have to watch as this activity continues. I mean, it's kind of like an unzipping process, if you will. And those have always kind of been just in theory, so to speak. But this is kind of playing out before our eyes. We need to study this and review this once it's all said and done. But again, I don't think we're done with the earthquake activity yet. Last earthquake, it looks like a 3.3. There's still a lot of activity kicking up. 332 earthquakes here on the map. Again, that's just only showing a portion of the quakes here. The way this is set up, it kind of cuts it off if I were to go to the west. So either way, that's a lot of earthquake activity, folks. So we'll definitely keep an eye on this. And far as the regions around the area go, far as elsewhere, there is some movement kicking up here. Let me show you guys. Up into Poland, seen a 3.6, 2.5, a little bit further west here on the plate boundary. Let's see exactly where that's at. Let me bring this up here real quick. 2.5 in Italy. But Turkey's been our hotspot. If you remember this area of Turkey, we've been watching a lot of movement here, western Turkey. And in this area, the general plate movement here is moving again off to the northeast, east-northeast. So all this movement that we kind of seen here, maybe in potentially western Turkey, that we did pick up, could have been pointing towards something. But you really never know. You can't really predict earthquakes. But you can look at patterns of historical data and look at where stuff should be building up, and we haven't seen any major seismic activity in a while. So that's kind of what I'm incorporating here in tonight's update. We might want to watch regions here along the southwest area, but that swarm there has just kind of got me a little bit on the puzzled side as to how it's heading towards the west and way over here to the east as well. What do we got? 2.3 Northern California coming in. Just got an update here on my phone. I'm not really seeing anything kicking up here on the live stream, or at least on the live data. Let me bring up this map here real quick and see what we got. Okay, it looks like it's going to be out here around Clear Lake volcanic fields. That's all we need is a volcano blown up out here in Northern California. 2.3, of course. Technically speaking, this area is very active, right? There's, it's not a dead volcano in terms of, what's going on below the surface. There hasn't been any eruptions in a while. And the folks down here, Calpine Hydrothermal Operations, are taking advantage of the heat below. And they utilize a process by injecting raw sewage below to create some steam, which creates power in a way. Their whole process is a little bit disgusting and confusing. But there is a method behind their madness, and they're creating energy for folks there in the Bay Area by going green, so to speak, with that process. But this earthquake here, 2.3, a little odd one. Mount Konocti, of course, sits right up here. Beautiful feature. I do love Highway 20. When I go over here to the coast, I take Highway 20 through Williams and see this volcanic feature. It's kind of hard to tell here on this map, but it's this higher elevated region right here, and there's a lot of folks that have their homes up on that volcano. And I don't know, that's a little odd earthquake kicking up here tonight. 2.3, very shallow earthquake. We'll keep an eye on that. A little bit of movement also down along the San Andreas Fault at 2.1. That's going to be the creeping, well, just south of the creeping segment here. And Southern California, a little spotty activity, 1.2 near the Chino Hills, 24 kilometers deep. No major swarms to take note of out here across the west coast. The other story right now, I guess, is there's a little swarm going on around Yellowstone. Now, 6 earthquakes, there's definitely a lot more than 6 earthquakes. Let me show you guys here real quick on the map. On the graphs, hopefully, see if, are we working? Yes, we are. Okay. Over here around Maple Creek, just outside the Yellowstone caldera, this, again, Yellowstone's a supervolcano. Swarms are common. They do happen. And it's been a little while since we've had an earthquake swarm. But it appears as though we've got a pretty good one so far. No major earthquake movement. In fact, I think the largest one was a... let's see, what do we got here for UTC time? Looks like we're missing a little bit of the data here. Hold on a second here. Huh. That's a little odd. Either way, throughout the afternoon and evening time period, pretty good swarm of earthquakes here, kicking up into the northwest corner of Yellowstone National Park. I'd say a good 30 earthquakes or so, and that did show up across other regional seismograph stations, including here around the Hebgen Lake area. No major movement, but it's definitely a start of a swarm there. Actually kicking up pretty nicely. Let me bring up the University of Utah here. I'm kind of curious to see what's going on with the time frame. Bring up Yellowstone, and we'll see what we got here around the northwest corner of the park. Around, what's that, Holmes Hill? See, this is a little bit newer map here. I'm not for sure what's going on with the other one. It kind of looks like, let me see here. Kind of looks like these are pretty much, they've died off here over the last couple hours. I just kind of want to make sure that this, we're getting the right accurate data here. But over the last couple hours, it looks like things have kind of mellowed out here with the Yellowstone swarm. There's the P waves up here from that 7.5 overnight there in Turkey. All right, let's see what else we got here. Just real quick, recapping. A little bit of movement, of course, throughout the last 24 hours around the Texas area. And up in New York, we haven't really seen any further activity. Of course, this is one of the larger earthquakes in about 40 years or so. No further movement to note across the area. Let's see what we got for the latest activity. It looks like Oklahoma still chiming in on a little bit of movement up here with a 1.9. The most recent quake there across the eastern portion of the country. A little spotty activity throughout the Caribbean. Goodness. It's been quite a while since I've only seen one earthquake here on the map across Puerto Rico. That's almost unheard of. As you know, this area should be swarming. There should be at least some type of activity occurring. Not for sure if they stopped reporting the activity or we are just entering into a major quiet spell. But that is, again, almost unheard of. Just got another notification here of a 4.7 in Turkey. That's probably going to be this signature right here. I do have that stationed there around the Turkey area. Now, it's not directly above the epicenter region, but some of the larger earthquakes are definitely showing up there across that seismograph station. Not yet on the USGS. This is being reported by the EMSC. The EMSC, very quick at reporting the data. 4.7 right there on the into the area. Are we getting two 4.7s? No, just one. All right, let's see what else we got here, folks. A little bit of activity out into the southeastern Pacific. Divergent boundary showing some activity out here. Out into the East Pacific Rise, Central East Pacific Rise. This is, again, separation of the seafloor. A couple of fracture zones out here, as you can see, along the oceanic crust. Down into the South America region, one earthquake. One or two throughout the day today, a couple of fours, some deeper movement underneath the San Antonio de los Cobres, Argentina region. That's the Peru-Chile Trench, 198 kilometers deep for that area. You know, I'm kind of curious to see how all this activity in Turkey is going to affect, you know, plates as a whole across the Earth, and haven't really seen any major adjustments yet. Some activity down in Hawaii around Pahala. A little bit of movement also into the Mariana Trench with a 107 kilometer deep 5.0. Some deeper regions definitely showing some activity, it appears, today. Also just off the coast of Taiwan, a 4.8 coming in, 20 kilometers deep. The Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, Japan Trench, all remain very quiet. That's, you know, it's a sleeping giant up there. You know, we had that big 9-pointer back in 2011 here in Japan, but this area north, the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench here, has not shown any large-scale activity in quite a while. It's a hot spot there of potential here coming soon. Australia did see a little bit of further activity, a 2.5, way down south here. Nothing showing up on the USGS map. So let's see what we got here for the EMSC model real quick. Bring this up here and zoom in just a little bit here to Australia, where it looks like we got a little bit of swarming going on down here in the southwestern area of Australia with goodness, that's a lot of earthquake activity here. It only shows 4 earthquakes on the map. Hold on a second here. Let's see what we got. Why is it saying that 4 earthquakes? But as listed here, there's a lot. And that goes back over the last couple of days, it looks like here. Quite a bit of unusual activity occurring out here in the southwestern Australia area. General plate movement out here, of course. It's a ways away from any major plate boundaries here. This, of course, divergent boundaries down south. A little bit of subduction zone activity up here. Obviously, Java Trench regions. But there's definitely some activity kind of kicking up out there in Australia. See what we got for the GeoNet servers out there for the New Zealand folks. 3.3 about 5 hours ago, North Island, 31 kilometers deep. Here's the all magnitude map here. Most of the activity recently has definitely been confined up here to the North Island region. 2.7, 22 minutes ago. No major earthquake activity to report around New Zealand for now. But definitely something to watch, right? Definitely got to watch this area. This region across New Zealand really hasn't seen any, any large-scale activity in a little while, considering all the 6s and 7s we've seen up here around Tonga Trench, Fiji, all the 7s and whatnot late last year, with only very minimal activity down here along the plate boundary. So the strain's building up, just a little unsure as to how much is built up out here. When the next big one will strike New Zealand, it's a little bit on the questionable side out there. Let me go back here and check out the volcano drums and see what we have here across the area of New Zealand. No major activity being reported. That would definitely show up, obviously, across these volcanic drums of New Zealand, but not a whole lot currently across the area. One earthquake up here around the Samoa area, 5.0, early this morning, about 9 o'clock or so. Java Trench has shown a little bit of activity out here, including a 5.5, 57 kilometers deep here. Just because you got to think here, just because there's a lot of activity up here in Turkey doesn't mean that everything else stops. The world doesn't stop because of all the activity up here in Turkey. There's always plate dynamics elsewhere and continuing continental drift in the plate movement. But a lot of times I like to look for, unusual activity due to this type of event. And right now, I'm not really seeing anything aside from all the swarming, from all the migration of this activity here along the plate boundaries. That's the only thing that's got me a little bit concerned here, is that it could continue to follow certain plate boundaries out here. We'll have to see how that plays out. The Atlantic Ocean, very quiet, very calm. Not a whole lot popping off there currently in the Atlantic. Alaska, about the same. No major changes up there. Very typical movement across the Alaska area for now. So, kind of see, oh goodness, what we've got 2 earthquakes popping off here, literally within minutes of each other around Clear Lake. What's going on out here? So, there is a couple different fault systems out here, very small faults, but a lot of this is associated with the Mount Konocti area, Clear Lake volcanic field. And this earthquake activity is shallow, about 1 kilometer or so below this area. 2.0 and a 2.3 literally within minutes of each other, so we'll keep an eye on that. Either way, kind of looks like California lighting up a little bit out here. I don't have anything specific out there into the Clear Lake area. I do have Barrett down in Southern California showing a little bit of activity. And of course, movement up into the Northern California area around Dinsmore. That's going to be around the Cascadia subduction zone. Not a whole lot showing up there. Speaking of that, let's see what we got for tremor activity here. Tonight, 0. Nada. Zip 0. What was yesterday's tremor? Let me see what we got. There was just a little bit of activity, if I remember, into the Oregon area. But it appears as though all this activity out in Turkey, if you want to choose to believe that or not, I think it does play a part, right? Not only regionally, but as a whole in the puzzle pieces, so to speak, that if you can picture in your mind all these plates just being a bigger part of a puzzle. When you get one area moving, it kind of stresses another area, but also relieves areas near or potentially near and far. But there's no tremor. No tremor out here today, which is, kind of interesting there. All right, let's see. Yellowstone. We checked out Yellowstone. Again, these are not for sure why these maps are older. They haven't updated their system out here for some reason. But that's right. We already checked that, so we're good to go on that. Space weather activity. things are lighting up a little bit in terms of some sunspots. We had a little week or so of some low activity. Now we're starting to ramp back up here with a couple regional sunspots here on the northeastern limb. Going to watch this sunspot down here. It's growing very, very rapidly. Notice the orange, the blue, very close with another regional spot here. It's looking pretty unstable. That, I believe, let me double check here, has a, well, they're saying 3113 has a beta gamma class. There's a little bit of a notice the structure here in that area as well. Hold on a second here. Now 3114 or 3214. Goodness, we're already into the yeah, we're already into the 32s. That was quick. So 3214 looks like they only have it set as a beta class. Again, but this could be some older reviews. I think it's got a little bit more complex structure on this sunspot right now, 3214. Looks like it's growing pretty drastically. So either way, a number of sunspots here to watch for some potential flaring. This one back here, way back here, looks pretty complex as well. These will be rotating into view here, at least in the Earth view, within the coming hours and days. Looks like 75% chance for C flare, M flare at 15, X flare around 1. The latest data here doesn't show any significant flaring. Last one was a C 7.8 yesterday UTC time. But definitely worth watching, folks. There's a couple different sunspots here showing some high interest, and they're sparking up pretty nicely. We'll watch those in the coming days, and maybe we'll see if we can't get a pretty nice flare with subsequent CME, Earth-directed. That way we can get some awesome auroras up at the higher latitudes, maybe the mid-latitudes as well. Right now, a low percentage of probability up there for the auroras. Canada, potentially maybe Greenland and Iceland area, northern Alaska, but no major events popping up currently. All right, let's see, what else do we have here, folks? I think the bigger picture is just to be prepared out here. We try to keep the basic facts out here in terms of what's going on, as far as earthquake activity goes. It's definitely not volcanic. I don't believe that. But it is following a very interesting path here of migration along plate boundaries and away from plate boundaries, more so with this activity here to the west. So there's a lot of energy. If you really think about the amount of activity that's been produced out here over the last day or so, the largest one was 7.8, 7.5, 6.7. That's a tremendous amount of earthquake activity. I don't believe that this area harbors anything above an 8. Again, there's no major subduction zones out here, so I don't think the potential is there. But who knows, right? Who knows with this unzipping type of process? And we got another earthquake coming in here down south. Hold on. We're looking at that southward migration here more recently into northern Syria. It looks like almost into Syria, right here along the border. But that fault system plate boundary continues all the way down south here. It's a very unique and very interesting plate boundary marked on this map, and got to watch that, right? We're showing definitely some increasing activity away from the epicenters of the main quake, and again, we're just going to watch this and see how it plays out. I don't think anyone knows exactly how it's going to play out. All right, folks, I'm going to jump off here and enjoy my quiet Monday evening. Hope everyone else does the same. Just be prepared. No need to be scared out here. Definitely just stay safe. Be prepared. Have an earthquake plan, right? That's a main. That's the main thing. Got to make sure you guys have a, a survival kit, so to speak. All right, guys. Have a good night. We'll chat you guys sometime tomorrow, I suppose. Take care.